This week we're talking about having our priorities straight, and one of our priorities, based on Jesus' teaching in the Gospels, is that we want to be a positive witness for Jesus. And in Matthew chapter 10, in verses 24 to about verse 42, Jesus is warning about there will be coming persecutions, there will be times of trial and difficulty, and in the midst of that, we need to still be a positive witness. And our verses for the day are Matthew 10, verses 32 and 33, where Jesus is encouraging us to stay strong, to stay faithful. And he says, "Everyone therefore who acknowledges me before others, I also will acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever denies me before others, I also will deny before my Father in heaven." By the time Matthew's gospel was being written, it was already becoming increasingly more difficult to be a Christian. And so part of the teaching that Matthew is sharing here is reflecting the fact that there may be times when part of you may feel like hiding the fact that you're a follower of Christ. But in fact, we need to figure out how to be a positive witness, even if there may be some negative consequences for us. I attended the men's Bible study on Monday of this week, and one of the things I mentioned to that group was the idea of being an ambassador for Christ, as Paul writes about to the Corinthians. And it's like, imagine if everybody knew you were a Christian because every day you had to wear a shirt that just said in huge letters, "I'm a follower of Christ," or "I'm a Christian." And everyone would know that that's who you were following, and everything you said, everything you did, all your emotions and everything, people could see, well, oh, that person's a follower of Jesus, and they're saying that, doing that, acting in that way. So it's a helpful reminder, I think, these verses from Matthew chapter 10, that we want to acknowledge Christ before others, before the world. We don't want to be ashamed of the gospel, as Paul writes in the first chapter of his letter to the Romans. But as always, we want to represent Christ well. We want to do so with courage, with grace, with dignity, with humility, always with love, as I talk about so much. And Jesus says, there is a reward to keep in mind. There is a finish line to keep in mind, because all of us who acknowledge Christ in this life and who are a positive witness for him, stand up for Christ in appropriate ways, that the day will come when Jesus will acknowledge us before his Father in heaven. So if you're going through a time when you're finding it hard to be a faithful Christian, keep in mind everything that Jesus went through. Remember that he told us there'd be times like that, and look forward with hope when you need motivation. I want to acknowledge Christ and represent him well, so that when the time comes for me to stand before God, Christ will acknowledge me.